Hey, Lordy, look at the time.
Empowered.
Okay, so welcome back to the M-PWRD Podcast. Today I am joined by Nada, and you've got an amazing story to tell. So I just want to let you introduce yourself and the story that you've got for us.
First of all, thank you for having me.
No problem whatsoever. Very excited.
I'm Nada. I'm 21 years old. I came from Yemen. I was almost becoming a victim of child marriage at the age of 11 in 2013, and that's where my story became global. My family arranged marriage for me when I was 11. I ran away 3 days before my wedding. So I ran away to my uncle to help me, but he wasn't there. So I ran to his friend, and the only option I had, because I had a threat of my life, is to record a video. So my uncle's friend helped me to upload the video in YouTube, and it blew up. Everyone start talking about it, and within 3 days, 8 million views, translated to many languages. All media start talking about it. That's before social media, like TV and etc. And that put a pressure actually on the government in Yemen to protect me. There was no law to prevent child marriage in Yemen. So the pressure of media actually made them divorce me and move my custody from my family, my parents, to my uncle. And there where start everything, the challenges I had a lot of threats, because it was I was the only person who broke something like that. It was the black sheep of the community. How 11 years old just say no. I didn't want to become a victim because I saw the victims in my family. My auntie got married at the age of 13, died at the age of 14 by committing suicide by burning herself. And that really broke my heart because she was my best friend. And I wasn't allowed to talk to her because they considered her as a married person and considered me as a single. And as a tradition, you're not allowed to have any conversation with married people. And then the second victim was my sister. They told her she's going to be married at the age of 13, but she threatened them, saying, if you're going to do that, I'm going to do whatever my auntie did. And obviously no one believed her. And she did try to commit suicide. She burned herself, but her life was saved. So while my sister is recovering from the burns on her body in the bed, they were trying to convince me, telling me, you'll have a white dress, you'll have your own wedding party, you'll have this and that. And it didn't make sense in my head. All I was thinking about is the victims. And I thought, I'm the next victim. And that's why I just ran away. I never knew what child marriage is actually until my video and my story linked to the title of child marriage. And I was a bit wondering, what's child marriage? I thought what happened was normal. So after that, I started educating myself and searching more about child marriage. And I knew it's a crime happens in every country, not because of a specific tradition, not because of a specific condition, which is poverty. These are a reason to increase the numbers of child marriage. But the main reason is the education. Parents think that the best way to protect a child's life is by marrying her off to a guy who will take care of her responsibilities. They don't know the consequences of child marriage, and that every 2 seconds one girl get married before the age of 18. This is a global problem that happens around the world, and I believe because media saved my life, that's why I use social media to spread awareness. And obviously I was kidnapped in Yemen for 14 days. The first 3 days I was blindfolded. They were just searching which country does support you. Does any European country support what you have done? And they were investigating about it. And obviously I was lucky because the governor of the city I was kidnapped in Yemen, he was murdered. So it forced the people who kidnapped me to change their location, so they released me. I left Yemen, I went to Saudi Arabia. I met the previous Prime Minister of Yemen, Ahmed, and I was like, you should put this, the subject of education in your next plans. And he was like, Nada, why don't you do your own foundation? I will sponsor it personally. And I was really shocked and I was happy and I was like, yeah, of course. And he told his team to do all the process to do Nada Foundation. And that's where Nada Foundation came. And it worked in 3 programs in Yemen to educate girls, spread awareness about the consequences of child marriage, and also the importance of girls, because unfortunately they don't know, parents, the importance of their girls' life and the importance of investing in their education instead of investing in their bodies and selling them for a couple of money under the name of marriage. And then I start becoming like doing my thing, which is social media, spreading awareness, attending conferences. I received the Arab Woman of 2022 prize in London, and Nada Foundation received a prize with and for girls for one of the foundation, the most important foundation that in Middle East only focuses on ending child marriage by education. And I start doing what I'm doing right now, influencing people, show in podcast or meetings or conferences, events, and do speak about this crime that happens around the world and spread more awareness towards it.
I mean, it's obviously I watched the video, the initial video that you put out at 11 years old, and I think what was most striking was, one, just how young you were, because obviously, you know, it's very hard to comprehend in this country that happens. You know, there's not, or, you know, until people like yourself are spreading awareness about it, it goes unnoticed. You know, unfortunately, the way that it is, you're not going to hear from the victims because most of them are married off. You know, it's very rare, I imagine, to be in the position that you're in now and being able to retrospectively talk about it, because most of the people who've went through it are still going through it. They're still in that environment. They don't have a voice. So that probably the most striking thing was just how young you were, but how it felt like it was a crime against your innocence, in the terms of no 11-year-old should have to say the things that you were saying. I think that's what was striking to me. No 11-year-old should have to know about any of those things.
Or run away. Like, that's why I say as well, girls doesn't have to run away. Like, I don't wish any, and I'd never say in media, tell girls to run away. I'll never put them in the risk that I was putting in, which is threatening their life to death and being kidnapped. The parents should protect their own kids. And that's why I speak about, like, that's why we try to educate parents about the consequences of this crime, because by educating them, you make a safe environment for the girls themselves. Because if the parents are, like, there is poor people that I know would never sell their daughter under the name of marriage, because they know the consequences of child marriage and put the reason under poverty, because they know how important this girl is as a human. So as I said, the education is the key, and educating parents about the consequences of this crime. And they don't look at as a girl as a body. And I don't want any girl to see the victims and see their own family burning themselves to know, oh my God, this is gonna end my life. I want them to get educated, and their parents to get educated about this crime. Unfortunately, even in the UK, by the way, the age of preventing child marriage under the age of 18 just happened in February last year. This is shocking. Yeah. It was allowed for the girl to get married at the age of 16, 17 with her parents' permission. So this is like happened in here as well. And the funny thing is, when they go for divorce, the court doesn't take them seriously, and they cannot go divorce because they are not adult enough. But how do you marry off these children, and when they want to divorce, you can't take them seriously in the court because they are not adult? So this is like not making sense at all. And the government has to educate themselves as well. You see, the using phone while driving, you can see it everywhere. The consequences of it. You can see it everywhere, like stop doing it, warning you about it. But the consequences of killing a girl and raping her, and unfortunately raping her under the name of marriage, it's not existent at all. Like, barely people know what child marriage is. They might know the title, but they don't know how big this problem is. And actually the government has to put, like, all around the world, to put programs to spread awareness and actually tell people that you should protect your daughters. Like, if the law disappointed these girls, who else gonna protect them? And that's why we speak up for them, because they don't have the opportunities like we do right now, which is speak and have access to the other world and tell them about these stories.
I think probably one of the biggest issues there then is that like you said, when you're married, you can't then speak to the single girl and kind of tell them about what it's like. So when did you first find out about the fact that you were going to be married off? When did you first, you were 11 when it was going to happen, but at what age were you kind of being prepared for it, or did you not? Or is it kind of sprung upon you at the last minute? Is it something that you're consciously thinking about? Oh, in a couple of years, I'm going to be getting married, or is it something that they kind of keep from you until it's the time to do it?
It's actually, my parents came and approached me saying, your wedding is in 3 days. So I was married off already, in law. I was married. So I didn't know. They just told me my wedding is in 3 days. I didn't know what marriage is. And they never tell you what it is. Like, kids are like a whiteboard. You draw on it whatever you want. And what they're trying to do is give you the good things about marriage without telling you the consequences and the challenges you're going to face. As a child, how am I supposed to raise another child if I am not adult yet? I'm not physically and mentally ready to raise the next generation. And don't expect a great generation if you didn't prepare the foundation correctly, which is the mother. So that's when I realized this is going to be the end of me if I accept it, is when I saw the victims. And I didn't say yes or no. I was just shocked. I looked at my parents and I was just planning to get out of it. And
obviously your parents were aware of the situation with your other family members, sadly.
My sister.
Yeah.
Auntie.
Yes.
So my mom got married when she was 14. My grandmother when she was 9. And it's just not a marriage. Just imagine 9 years old married. It's very sad, but they say this is our tradition. You'll have to just follow it. They don't know how hard it is for this girl to face something like that, which is marriage. So unfortunately, they just wanted us to follow the tradition. And for them, my family were very angry at me. I remember the next day after we went to the government and they moved my custody. First of thing, I brought flowers and cake to my mom, and I was like I want to come back, I have siblings. We are 6 sisters and 4 brothers. I want to play again with my siblings. The first thing she did is throw the cake and the flowers on the ground. She was like, you're not my daughter anymore. Imagine 11 years old to hear that from her mom. So it was very painful, but my uncle was beside me and he was like, you have to be patient with them. And because my uncle did study, he finished his university and he educated himself, but my father never studied, either none of my family members. So he helped me. It took years to change their ideas and to change their mindset towards child marriage. But with his help, now my family are supporters. Now they tell me to continue what I'm doing, which is spreading awareness, and they accept me and they refuse marrying off my younger siblings, my younger sisters. And the opposite now, they support their education as well. So all we had to do is actually to educate them to save my sisters. So that's all needed. It's education, to sit down with them and tell them what's the consequences about it. It will take time. Changes never happen in one day. It takes time. It takes years. But we have to start it from now, which is what we're doing in social media. Now, social media in everyone's hand. So one video can make a person aware about this crime and many other things. So the power of media, it's a whole school. I call it a school because it's a school full of different things to educate people.
I think so often you see the negative impact of social media and you hear the negative impact that the media has. And I think that this highlights that it is just a tool that can be utilized to spread awareness. When you were first telling me that the goal is to spread awareness and to educate people, my initial instinct was the people who can make the biggest difference are the parents. How about the people who are actually agreeing to these child? Because obviously, in order to be married off as a child, there needs to be a husband who's willing to do this. Do you think that also needs to be something that's looked at to change people's mindset as to who is old enough to be, a suitable wife, or who is not even necessarily old enough? Because it shouldn't matter at all how old somebody is. It should matter that it's their choice to marry that person should they want to.
Of course, you have to educate all of them. But the thing is, imagine none of the parents accept selling their daughters under the name of marriage. No one will offer. You know what I mean? So it's the main thing. Like, it's like a business. It's like selling something. It's like the buyer is the husband, the seller is the parents, and the product is the child. This is how it is.
It's supply and demand.
Unfortunately, this is how it is. So if the parents refuse it and the girl refuse and educate themselves, or actually we educate them about the consequences of this, they would not accept any offer from another guy or another person for selling their daughters or using them because they are poor people, or offer them things that they don't have, because no matter what they can offer for them, they will never do it because they know how dangerous this is for their life.
No, yeah, I can totally see that. And I also saw, obviously, that the conditions that the girls will live in aren't necessarily going to be good ones. I mean, you'd shared some statistics on, girls dying in childbirth and during pregnancy, obviously probably due to such a young age of going through pregnancy before their bodies are capable. Is that something that's, awareness that you want to spread as well? The actual conditions that the girls will be living in, is that something that you guys can get into, and kind of, is there a goal of improving upon that? Because obviously I know preventing the next generation of girls going into this situation is paramount, but also there must be a lot of girls living in these situations now, probably, girls and women now, some of them. Is there any, hope for their situation improving?
These girls are, at the end of the day, they're victims. I never shared this before, but the reason my auntie were beaten up because she refused to have another child, and she decided by killing her pain is by killing herself, unfortunately. So these girls has no hope. They're victims, and the man has the power on their life, the husbands, and the parents cannot do nothing because they already sold their daughters. So they're like giving all the rights for the person who married her to do whatever they want to do. Unfortunately, these girls, you cannot tell them what to do because they're minors. They're below 18. But even an adult woman face the consequences of pregnancy and giving birth. Many women die while giving birth. They're adult. Imagine a little girl whose own body is not completed yet.
Of course. So obviously past the point that the actual marriage takes place, is there anything that can be done to try and improve that situation? If I know, it's transfer of responsibility. Obviously it's an alien concept to me, as you can imagine, because, everybody's individual person should be their own responsibility. Do you know what I mean? That should never really be transferred. But is there anything that can be done, if somebody is in that situation? Is there any way to reach out to them, or is it kind of, once it's past that point, it's almost too late, if you know what I mean?
There's nothing is too late towards this crime. But the girls need to educate themselves about the foundations and charities that can help them near to them or contact them. They have to educate for themselves before this happened to them, because you never know when this is going to happen. And unfortunately, change makers has to educate themselves. They're the one who put the rules and the laws. You have to educate yourself about the consequences of this crime. How is it until last year in this country it was allowed child marriage before, like after the age of 16. This is very sad, unfortunately. And after the pressure of the other charities and the activists, they start putting the law. So you're telling me last year I was allowed to sell my daughter under the age of 18 because the law allowed me. So the change makers has to educate themselves and actually put programs to educate people. It won't cost you a lot to put adverts on YouTube about the importance of girls' education and the consequences of child marriage. We all know that. So every individual person needs to educate themselves about it and about how important it is. These girls, they're half of the society. And without them, you don't expect a great generation, because you need to educate them. You need to give them the safe environment. And it's not too much to ask for. Like, let's be real, right? And media, unfortunately, don't discuss it a lot. This practice, which is child marriage, if you go deep in it, they're not allowed to watch plus 18 videos, but you're allowed to practice it on them. This is crazy imagining it.
Yeah.
Like, practicing it on a kid, it's okay, but for them to watch it or to make a child watch it is a huge crime, and you can be locked up. So where's the sense in here? Like, educate people how this is dangerous actually, and how this is gonna kill her life, not only through the pregnancy and giving birth, as well how to deal with her. Like, some of them say, most of them, I would say, face violence from their husband because the girl is not listening, the girl is not cooking, the girl is not cleaning, but she's a kid. How do you expect that from her?
I think all of that is terrible. I think it's bad enough that they lose their childhood. I know that's something that, is far removed from, that is not the worst thing that's happening to them. But I think even that in itself is so devastating, because you only get one childhood. And at 11 years old, to be expected to be a fully functioning wife, doing everything that your husband expects you to do, is, that's terrible. It's bad enough that they just have their innocence stripped away from them. And I think you can, watching the video of you talking at the age of 11, that looked to me like, even though you hadn't actually had to go through with the wedding, that in itself looked like it had taken a huge amount of your childhood away from you, because you had to grow up so quickly. I mean, to decide to run away is a huge, like a momentous thing in your life, and that shouldn't be a decision that a child has to make. A child shouldn't have to be responsible for their own safety.
Sure.
And you having to be forward thinking enough to take into consideration your own safety, when that should be the responsibility of your parents, should be your safety, looking after you, making sure that you're okay. Until you're an adult, that's their job. Obviously, I understand that traditionally that would then be transferred to the husband, but it seems like the wife's job is then to look after them. So, at 11 years old, to say nobody's looking after you anymore, it's now your job to look after, I assume, a fully grown man, then, it's very, very hard to get my head around. I think there'll be a lot of people who see the things that you put out and genuinely can't believe it. Do you know what I mean? It sounds, so crazy that that's happening, and that it's, happening now. When you think about that situation and not being able to, explore your childhood, not being able to have the choice in what you do, obviously it's just extremely sad, and it's just so good that you've been able to give yourself, give other people that opportunity as well. I know you said that your sisters are now not going to be in that position. So, if your efforts have already been a success in that respect, because, you've saved your sisters from potentially committing suicide if they were unhappy enough. And I think that, that's got to feel like a massive victory. Do you have individual goals then on, obviously eradicating this, but is there a in your head a step-by-step plan in place to kind of eradicate this slowly as it goes?
Yeah, of course. So that's why we work we made Nada Foundation in Yemen, and now we just register it in the UK because we wanted to work globally. There's people who come to this country and they are as well uneducated about this. So the charity work is to educate them and give them have some programs to educate the consequences of child marriage, because it's so easy to play around the law if there is not enough eyes on who breaks the laws. So these people unfortunately didn't have enough education back home, so when they come here they're as well uneducated. So we're trying to spread awareness even in this country, because not everyone is educated. Not everyone watching this video did know how big is child marriage is. They just maybe knew the title of it, or from the title you just know it's child marriage. But knowing how huge this is and happen all around the world, India has a law to prevent child marriage and criminalize it, but it's the most country in the world who has child marriage. So it's not only by the law. You cannot, I'll say this, don't put a law without education program. Because it's like giving a car to a person and never taught them how to drive the car, or giving them lessons. So it's the same thing. You cannot put a law without educating the people the importance of it and the value of it and the consequences of breaking that law.
I think if it's a social norm as well, then it's very, it's going to be even harder to police, because potentially the people who are responsible for policing it are also so accustomed to it that potentially they even partake in it. If it's so widespread in India, as you said, then there's potentially or probably going to be law enforcement who have partaken in a child marriage. Do you know what I mean? Because that's so widely spread in their country. So even though it's the laws change to protect it, I think changing everybody's mentality on it via education, like you said, is the only way that you're going to disrupt that. So obviously, it's from the outside looking in, it's extremely obvious that it's not good. You can see the statistics show that it's not good. If you married, I can't imagine putting myself in the mind frame of someone who's married somebody who's then, committed suicide in such devastating ways as I've seen in some of the videos and as you've told me about your aunt. Surely they're thinking this is wrong. If you're married, if you get married to a child who then commits suicide a year later, in your head, surely that's got to trigger something that says, wow, they really didn't enjoy this at all. This isn't right. How do you... It's hard for me to get my head around that side of things.
To be fair, this is not a way to educate them, because my auntie's ex-husband actually married after she was died within a year. So he actually didn't get educated by losing his wife. It's not enough only. Unfortunately, seeing 14 years old thinking the only solution to save herself from this violence is by ending her life, it's very sad, because it does happen. And imagine, this is what happened in my family. Imagine the things that media doesn't reach to. Imagine what girls has been doing to fight for their rights and to have a safe place. So the only way to do it is to repeat the information. Mm-hmm. Repeating it again and again, repeating it in TV, repeating it on social media, repeating it everywhere you go. This will give people actually a wider information and picture of this crime, even if your country doesn't allow it, but you have to educate yourself about it, because when you educate yourself, you're an influencer. You don't have to have, hundreds of thousands in your social media to be an influencer. You can be an influencer for your own family, for your own children. So educating yourself doesn't mean only for yourself. It means for the people around you, because you affect the people around you. You're like an energy. So it goes all around the people. So when you educate yourself, just make sure as well to speak to your family and really tell them about it, even if it's an introduction of it or hit points of child marriage. They'll have the curiosity to read more about it, and by educating yourself, you'll help hundreds of girls' life and save them.
In terms of then the education that is available to the girls, obviously the idea behind the child marriage from the parents' perspective then is to hopefully give them a better life than they can. I think that's if you're trying to look at it historically from the parents' eyes, poverty, if you've got a large family, it's difficult to support them. So hopefully by getting them married, then that person will take on the financial, I don't want to say burden, the financial. So what are the opportunities then for the girls if they don't get married so young? Is there the education in place so that they can go on and work? Or is that the idea that the girls can then go on to continue their education into their adulthood?
Which is when they're 18 and they finish school.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically it's about 18 years old and she's 100% finished her school. Like she is no longer going to school, which is, and then from 18 she decide what age she wants, because she's adult enough to decide what she would like. She would like to be a housewife. She choose that. She would like to be a doctor. Then there is the options for her.
Right.
So it's about the girl when she reaches 18, she pick for herself what she would like to have or what she would like to do in her life. But below that, parents deciding for her life and what age she should she should have babies and what age she should get married and who's the person as well. It's a crime itself, because you force this kid to do things that they're unaware of. Even the parent says, my daughter said yes, she accepted or she wanted it. Where is your job in here as a parent? Did you educate her about the consequences of it? So don't tell me my daughter said yes. If you didn't educate her enough, it means you didn't do your job as a parent, which is educating herself, educating her and telling her that education is the best option for her, because when she study well, when she have enough knowledge, she'll have more opportunities in life than only marriage and exclusive, like her whole life into marriage only, and thinking that marriage is the only solution for her to have a better life. This is totally wrong. Marriage is a foundation, and it comes later on, and you don't have to decide it very early or decide it for your children. And when the parent says it's less responsibility, then my dad had 4 boys. Why didn't he decide that less responsibility with the boys? Why we were the victims as girls? Because we were looked as a body. That's how they saw us, as a body. They didn't see us as a human or a child. They saw us as a body. They need to get rid of it. Unfortunately, they think that women are devil, and trying to get rid of her as soon as possible will be the best for them. Less responsibility and more money, because the dowry, they'll get money out of the marriage.
Yes.
And I know some poor families, they will never marry off their daughters just because they're poor. They'll fight. They will try their best options to save and protect her. So yes, poverty increased the numbers of child marriage, but it's not the reason of it. The reason of it is how you look at this child and how do you know the importance of it.
Yeah, with enough education, you'll know that the price, your child's priceless. I think that's the level of education that they can hope to get to, is to know that there is no monetary value to subject your child to something that they don't want to do, essentially. So once you reach 18 years old, your studies are complete. You're then an adult in the eyes of the law, and you can make your own decision. Your parents no longer have any say. So I guess the key is keeping the girls out of, getting them to 18. Once they're over 18, essentially they're out of the woods. They can get to that position, and now they've got more rights, and their parents can't choose to marry them. They basically make that decision themselves. Is that essentially the goal, is to just get them once you get to 18, you know, you're kind of okay.
No, the best is for us is to educate this girl and make sure she's got enough education and be part of building a new generation as well, which is become a doctor or having a better career for herself, so she doesn't have to rely on on a marriage, or she doesn't have to rely on her parents to support her financially. So it's to make this girl independent as well financially and mentally as well, so she decide what she wants to do. And when you give education for girls, trust me, when they're 18 they wouldn't pick marriage only.
No, of
because
course.
there is many other options for them they can do, which is building themselves, building, even if they want to become mothers, building a strong mother that if it happens that she loses her husband, she knows how to take care of her own kids. Yeah,
of course. So I'm just thinking from the perspective of, you know, getting the education to the parents so that you can get the girls to a stage where they can make their own decisions. Obviously, I was, you know, pointing out that 18 is the age that they can then make their own decisions. Yes. So it's educating the parents that keep your daughters in education. If they're married, is there no option for them to go and continue their education? Or is it, like you said, just the jurisdiction of the husband as to whether he allows them to continue their studies?
If they're married.
So once they so say, for example, they were married at 13, 14, does their education stop? So for you, for example, would your education have stopped at 11?
Yes.
It would have just, there was no education once you're married.
I'm expected to act like an adult. I'm expected to clean, cook, and produce children. That's literally what's the main idea of them. I'm married, so I'm not allowed to continue my education.
Right.
And even if I was blessed and the husband was very educated and that he will let me continue my education, when I get pregnant, how I'm going to continue my education? Yeah. When I give birth, how I'm going to concentrate on two things? It will be very hard for these girls to do. And during that whole process, she might risk death as well.
Of course.
So there is no hope to continue her education while she's married, because she will be expected to do adult things and jump from her childhood or teenage, for example, into adult life.
11's obviously extremely young. I know you'd said there that is it more often kind of like 13 years old, or does it just totally depend on?
Yeah, so it is actually just depends on the situation the girls are in. So my auntie got married at the age of 13, my mom 14, my grandma 9, and I was almost getting married at the age of 11. So it depends really about the place you're in. It depends on what decision your parents really made.
Right, okay. Because obviously 9, again, that's, you know, 14's becoming a teenager, and, you know, that's still incredibly, you know, strange by today's standards, and, you know, obviously exactly what you're campaigning against, but 9 is literally, that's still like a small child, really. That's kind of primary school. I'd fear that if someone ended their education at 9, I don't really know, you know, what sort of mother they could be, if you know what I mean, to finish your education at.
No, my grandma suffered a lot. Like when I mentioned it to my uncle, he's with us in the studio.
Yeah.
He started tearing up because he saw it. He saw how she used to get abused, and he used to take the abuse from her by just hugging her and take it from her. So it's very difficult. It's something, unfortunately, you can't imagine because people are outside the bubble. Mm-hmm. Like, we're inside it. We see it every day.
Yeah.
When I used to go to school after, like, everything is, like, after I left with my uncle and after the case happened, in the first year, the class will be full, and the end of the term, the class is halfway because girls are engaged or married. So it was very painful to see that.
So did you continue your education in Yemen?
Yes, I did until I left Yemen because it wasn't safe for me. And unfortunately, I happened the war in Yemen, and I kept moving from a country to another. But what I've done is I educated myself, which is studying online. about human rights and the importance of girls' education as well, so I can really speak up more about it, and as well to speak another language. And until I arrived here, and now I'm continuing my education.
That's
still
amazing.
doing. Yeah, I started from zero because I did not have any high school certificates.
So you've continued your education here, and you're kind of going through that now.
Yes.
And
I want to become an international lawyer, so I'm
Right.
doing the steps to join the uni.
I mean, I assume you've probably spoken to your uncle about all of this in much depth. I wonder then if he might have mentioned what he was obviously in that bubble as well. He lived there. He could have potentially been next up to have someone propose to him as a wife. I know you said that he was in education, but I assume a lot of men are going to education. What do you think it was specifically about him that he saw this is wrong, and how did you know that you could go to him? Because obviously, you couldn't go to your dad, you couldn't go to other men in your family, I presume. Mm-hmm. So what do you think sparked that there for him to know internally, this is wrong, I'm going to help her get out of here?
Yeah, so basically my uncle is my angel, honestly. He's the one who took care of me even before this happened. So my uncle met a lot of women before, like he does, he is a photographer, graphics man, so he do things on media, he meet women, he talk to them, and obviously with work you do, you educate yourself more. And he read a lot of books, and he saw his mom suffering. So he used to do this thing, which is every summer he will take one of the girls from the family to the capital, because from the village, he will offer us some dancing classes, some language learning classes, drawing classes, and he would do that just because he wants to do it. He believed in women. He believed that women can do something, because his mom was a great mother. She's the one supported him. Even the things she saw in her life, and the violence from her husband she still supported the education of her child. He took me as well in one of the summers, and he showed me that I can do something, I can become something than only marriage, which is the bubble we have. And that's why when I just needed help, I knew that he will help me, he will protect me, because he was different than others. He was different than my 7 uncles. I have 7 uncles. He was different than all of them. So I knew when I would go and ask for his help, he will be there with open arms.
I think, he's obviously put him, obviously you were at massive risk with going into that, with rejecting that marriage and running away and doing that. Obviously, it will be a big risk for your uncle as well to, help you. Obviously, he's made the right decision.
Yeah, he did receive a lot of threats.
Yeah.
I knew it. Even if I was a child, but I knew the way he would look at a text message or when he respond to a phone call, especially after my case, because my uncle was in the media when we went to the home office, when they divorced me in Yemen. He was in a media because BBC was there as well. So he received a lot of threats, but still he believed that he's doing something, save a kid life. And he believed in me, and he believed in just protecting a girl, and he actually didn't care about whatever comes after it. He was kidnapped with me, and we traveled many countries around the world just to find a safe place for us. So he took it as his own case, as his own story, because he obviously saw the pain his mother going through, and he didn't want another child to go through it.
I think quite often nowadays on social media and other places, you see a lot of, I don't know what the correct word is. You see a lot of almost easy activism. People who are kind of supporting things which aren't uncomfortable to support, if you know what I mean. This is obviously something that's extremely uncomfortable to support for yourself. You know, you are in that position. This isn't this is hard activism, do you know what I mean? To take yourself out of that situation as a child and run away. And from your uncle's perspective as well, you know, there's going to be if everybody in the room thinks the same thing and you're kind of going along with the talking points, it can be very easy to kind of say, yes, I'm against that. It can probably be easy in England. There's no risk to me to say that I would completely oppose child marriage. I obviously think that the situation that you were in is terrible. I think it needs to stop. You know, that's kind of so for activism from my side, because, you know, there's no threat to me from saying that this country, you know, for people from England as well specifically, you know, I'll get no backlash from that, because people that I know would also support that. To be in a position where you're going against directly other people that you know, if his brothers, if they had married someone like a child in a child marriage, you're going directly against your family members. That is extremely difficult. It's easy to agree with what everybody else is saying.
But not to disagree.
But it's extremely difficult to disagree with the people who are doing it. You know, so, you know, that must be probably one of the reasons that I can try and imagine from the outside looking in. Maybe there's other people like your uncle who feel the same way he feels, but, you know, if he has 5 brothers or 6 brothers and they're all saying, yes, I think they think they should be child marriage. What are you talking about? You're going against your brother, you're going against your family. But I wonder how many people actually think that it's the right thing to do, or just think everybody else thinks that it's not the wrong thing to do, if you know what I mean.
No, I do get what you mean, that it's very dangerous to be around people who all agree and you're the only one who disagrees.
Yes.
Obviously, it can be scary, and that's why my family at first refused, and my mom was like, "You're not my daughter anymore," because I was a child, and says, "No, you're doing something wrong." So they didn't take it easily, and they didn't understand what I'm doing. But the thing is, you have to disagree sometimes. Like, especially in this case, you have to disagree, because when these things happen, you have to shock people sometimes, and you have to tell them, no, I know you've grown up in this, and your great parents done that before, and your parents done it, but it doesn't mean you'll have to follow it, because it doesn't suit this generation anymore. There is more things that the girl can do, which is education. She can become something in the future. There are safe places for her. There is a law who's going to support that will support her and give her as well, give her positions in, as a doctor, a lawyer, as a change maker, just because she educated herself. So sometimes you have to shock these people. So when I know it's hard, but it's really harder to take it easy on them, because this is killing girls. You can't really agree on them and then slowly disagree, because the more you take time, the more girls are in risk of death.
Yeah, you said 24. Was it 24 an hour or something? Every 2 minutes.
Every 2 seconds, one girl.
Every 2 seconds.
Yes.
That's crazy. It's hard to understand. Hundreds of girls since we started this conversation, potentially being subject to atrocities.
Especially now with COVID as well. We were doing a lot of process, but COVID, it's kind of take us a step back, and it means that we have to do a lot of work now, more than we used to do before COVID, because it kind of stopped the process, and it was harder for the charities to do their work and to spread the awareness more, and to go to the places that needs some help as well, like financially. So now it's harder work to do, and it's not at the same minute we'll see the result. It will take time, but these kind of cases does need time and need patience for you to continue and to believe in it. So you have nothing comes out of it, but you have to believe in it actually, and feel like you're doing something for the next generation, something to save people's life.
I mean, even if the work that you've done has, you know, educated one person, I think that it's incredibly powerful and important. How have the laws changed, or is there?
That's the good point. That's the good part of it, actually. So, Egypt now has a law to prevent child marriage. Saudi Arabia, which is recent, and so many other countries prevented child marriage before the age of 18. Just because of the work we do, obviously, it will take time, but that made countries change their laws and actually think, oh, no, this is serious. We have to put laws to prevent it and punishment for the people who cross these laws, and such as the UK as well, which is on February last year. What we do, yes, takes time, but it makes a huge difference, and it gives a safe place for these girls. And I want to mention something. My case was 10 years ago. Media wasn't that like it is today.
Yeah, social media, you know, you didn't have the
power
reach
that has it today. And even though media protected my life 2013, now I see how people change their mindset, because I do media work. I do social media. I show on live and talk about this crime. And if one girl show in a video or write an article or put her picture and tell the word about her case, trust me, people in media will turn into an army for this girl. Mm-hmm. So there is actually a change, and that's the bright part of what we do, which is repeating the information. Will actually, even some people will be like, it's really hard to change someone's mindset. It's enough for me if they listen. Them giving me the chance for me to speak and they listen, this is enough for me, because for you to listen to something actually kills other girls and be questioning yourself about it will help a lot of girls. And another person, which is not maybe me, another activist who show up and give their opinion about it and talk about it more, might change this person who listened to me first. So it is a process, and just repeating the information will make a great impact towards these people's mindset.
Because it's not going to reduce the chances of the people finding a wife, because there are going to be, you know, all of those people who are getting married off are still going to be there. It's not like they disappear. They just will grow up and have that choice to make themselves. So I can definitely see where you're coming from. And I know that it's obviously a very slow process to change people's
No, these people need
traditions.
to be locked up. These people need to be locked up. The people actually going to marry these kids. Unfortunately, they will try even to threat the families for them to give their daughters. A story happened in Yemen. A father borrowed a cow from a person, and the only way that person will forgive them is to sell his 6-year-old daughter to him as a marriage. And it was in media as well, in social media, all around social media. People were angry about it and put pressure on the government and the police to actually stop this and what was going on. And they actually did. He divorced that 6-year-old kid, just because these people actually will do the impossible to just practice what they want to practice.
Yeah. How many people? Because obviously it sounds like it's a lot of, you know, it's a lot of girls end up in this situation. So obviously that means there are a lot of people in those countries who are willing to marry a child. And, you know, obviously if they've done that and if they've married a child in that situation, then yeah, I don't know what the kind of, if the laws will change or anything like that. Obviously it's so alien to me to kind of think about that, because obviously it's not something that I would ever have, you know, it's...
But there is Alex, there is no there is no 100% numbers about child marriage, sorry, because not everyone will come to you and be like, yeah, I want to marry a child. And not every parents will come to you and be like, yes, we want to sell our daughters. So it's very, very hard to bring up statistics like this. This is just a number, like what they've gathered, but it's not the whole reality about child marriage, because it actually happens in villages, which is people and charities cannot reach to countries that has war as well. And it's very hard to reach to there and know the exact number. So there is no exact number of child marriage. If they say millions, it's more than millions, because there's places you cannot actually reach to know that, like, the real story or the whole story.
Yeah, and people aren't necessarily documenting it. Sometimes, people will end up in that situation, almost nobody knows about it because it's kind of internal.
Unfortunately, media is not doing it. It's a whole job about it. There's more cooking programs than child marriage or importance of education programs. Yeah.
No, I feel like it's probably an uncomfortable truth for a lot of the media outlets. It's the mainstream media. It's not something that I would choose to consume, the mainstream media. Let's just say that, because I feel like, a lot of it is narrative driven, and quite often these countries that are, poor countries, that if nobody's making a big fuss about it and it's not in their best interest. I mean, the Yemen is, a country that's, quite well known to have been, a war-torn environment. And I think quite often the media will look the other way anyway when it comes to that, because it's not in their best interest to shine the light on the Yemen, because there's atrocities that happen from a human rights perspective to the actual country in terms of the war, and nobody watching this won't have heard of the airstrikes and things like that. And I think highlighting in a country that crimes are taking place, or the child marriage, it's not going to be in their best interest to shine a light on Yemen, because they are some of the big countries that are, in cahoots with the media, are part of that war and part of those terrible things that happened to the Yemen. So from their perspective, I think it's going to have to be people doing their media themselves, putting their own social media out there, doing like reporting on this. Is there any? I think your situation was so powerful to me particularly, and to all those people who watched it, because it was a video and because it was coming directly from you. Your story is so good because you can tell people directly how you felt, all those sort of things. Unfortunately, sometimes when there's statistics and people are talking about things, it's so hard to get their head around. Is there media coming out of Yemen with kind of other girls talking about this? And is there a way of actually getting in? Because I can understand that if these communities are supporting child marriage, it must be very difficult to actually get content out of there.
To be honest, I wish, the only thing I wish it was never putting a child in media. But I had no chance but showing myself in the media and telling the world about my story. But I shouldn't have been in that position. I should have been protected. I should have been hidden from media, because this is not a place for children. And unfortunately, the media in Yemen doesn't cover everything, either in other countries that has war as well, because of there's no language to contact with the other word, and the media is risking, they're risking their life to just take some shots and some videos. So it's really hard to speak from the inside there. And that's what we do. We speak for all of them, not only in Yemen, all around the world. Like, there's people in, for example, I work in Spain as well to spread awareness about the consequences of child marriage in Spain, because there is refugees people as well who just came from their countries, and they don't know that there is a law to prevent it in this country and the consequences of it, and they're still practicing it, unfortunately. So that's what we do. It's not because your country has a law, it means it doesn't exist. It does exist, but you just don't know about it. But if you search deep, you will know it does exist in every country around the world. There is no country in the world has 0% child marriage, because even if there is no numbers, it still happens. It just didn't reach to the right people, or they couldn't know the reality of this crime. So that's why I say spreading awareness, because spreading awareness can go to every household, which is on a video, voice, a podcast, voice, radio. All of these can reach to people, and actually they can understand what is this problem and how big is this and what's the solutions for it, which is very basic education. And with education, the laws will come. You can't just put a law because you weren't aware of it. You can't just put a law because someone forced you. You have to be educated to put a law and prevent this crime, and study the law and feel like, is it like suitable as well, and what things we should add on as a law. So educating yourself will be the best solution towards this crime.
And what do you think, people who are totally detached from the situation, what can they do to help? Because obviously, spreading awareness is all well, and they can help, follow the pages and things like that. But is there things in like specifically that people can be doing to try and help who aren't, in that area? Of
course, so there is the charities that you can support that actually fight to end child marriage, and to give opportunities for girls to educate themselves. The more you support these charities, the more charities will appear as well and start working towards this. So you are encouraging other peoples to do their own charities and support the other charities to become everywhere, so girls can have easy access to it. And she doesn't have to travel miles, so she can go to a foundation to protect her, or a safe place for her. So supporting charities will actually help a lot of girls, and they will have access to education and access to a safe place.
So the girls can actually get out of that. So say, for example, they were part of a family who, for whatever reason, even though they might find out about the dangers of child marriage, have made the commitment to still say, this is our custom, this is what we believe, we want you to get married. There'll be a pathway for those girls to, say, well, I don't want to live with you anymore, and not have to put themselves in such a position that you did, where they had to kind of, you were probably very fortunate to
have an uncle.
Have an uncle. But all I'm saying, between you leaving and getting to a different country, a lot could have went wrong. Do you know what I mean? True. There was probably, you said you were kidnapped. I can't imagine, at any point that could have went terribly wrong, and we wouldn't have been having this conversation. Do you know what I mean? If at any point while you're kidnapped, you're at the...
No, I do you know what? I actually thought I would never get out of it. I gave up at that moment when I was kidnapped. I said to myself, I'm not getting out of it alive, because the group that kidnapped me, they don't let you out alive, and I was fortunate. Just because of something else happened, I had to force them to release us, because they had to change their locations. So, because that's why when I left Yemen, I was like, I had a second chance to live. Why don't I give this second chance to another girls? And that's why I want to make my whole life towards this case. I even studying international law to defend these victims and end child marriage, because it's not easy to have a second chance to live.
No.
And I feel like it's like a blessing, and I need to speak up for these girls, because not every girl has the access to media or internet to speak up. And by me speaking about it from an experience, or almost being a victim and showing the victims as well, will give people even 10% of the reality of child marriage.
I mean, and you say there, almost being a victim, I can see that by the way that you carry yourself, and the way that you've, put this all together to help other people. You've definitely not assumed the position of victim in this, but I think even you having to do this has made you a victim of this, because like we said, you've not had the opportunity to have your childhood, you've had that turbulent relationship with your family, had to think about things that no child should have to think about, like, am I going to have a child myself soon? Who is this person that I'm going to be marrying? What is going on? Should I kill myself? Which no child should think. I'm going to die in this situation. When you are kidnapped again, no child should ever have to think that. So I think the way that you've handled it, and you've kind of, there could be a lot of like, you know, you'd be well within your rights to feel sorry for yourself in this situation. I think a lot of people would, and I feel like the fact that you've decided that you won't be a victim of this, you won't feel sorry for yourself, you're going to go and take this opportunity to help other people, I think in itself is going to be so empowering for other people to look at and think, well, if she's going to make that decision to feel so strongly about this, this definitely is a cause that we need to support. I think it's, you know, I'll say it again, it was hard to watch that video. Like, even, you know, 10 years, it's 10 years after, like, watching that video was, you know, a difficult video for anyone to watch. But I think that the good that is and is going to come out of it just highlights the kind of path that you're on. Yeah, it's been, you know, so interesting to hear the situation that's happening right now. So good to see the work that is continuing to happen. Obviously, I feel like people can and should support this by supporting the charity. Yeah, it's just, it's hard to hear that happens, and the way that you've kind of articulated it. What's next for you? What's next on your kind of agenda in terms of, you know, you've just set up the UK charity in 2023, I believe.
We just set up the charity, so we just got the license for the charity, and we are on launching programs for the charity as well. But my plans is to actually spread awareness, not through only my social media, and having to work with other people to spread it, such as youth for today, for example, for today. So this is what I do, and this is what I'm going to keep doing as well. By me traveling to another countries and doing events and speak about it actually helps these victims that can reach their voice or deliver their voice to the world. And I will continue what I do, and I'll just work on it or around this case harder. Well,
I think nothing's going to stop you. I think that's what, you know, if nothing else is clear, that it's that nothing's going to stop you from achieving that. I think that you know, people in this situation are, you know, I think there's a lot of girls who are probably in a much better situation now because of you, and I think that that's something that, you know, that in itself is enough. Do you know what I mean? If you can help one other person, I always think that that's enough. The fact that you want to continue to help loads and loads of people and that you're not going to stop, I just think that it's, you know, it's unbelievable what you're doing. I'm grateful for you coming on and sharing your story. Obviously, we want to amplify that and share these clips and share this, and I hope that people can. We'll share all of the in the description of the YouTube video. We'll share the link to the foundation and things like that. Is there anywhere that you would like to direct people to in terms of, other than the kind of foundation, you know, website or anything? Is there anywhere that you'd like to direct people to so that they can get involved and help out?
Actually, I would like to direct them to read more about it. Just by listening about this crime, it's not only enough. Reading more about the consequences of child marriage, it will be the reason for you saving many girls' life. Knowing and educating yourself and educating the people around you, such as your kids as well, that marriage is not only the only way to save your life or to rely yourself on it, but there is bigger things, which is educating them and giving them a good quality of education, building them to be independent financially and mentally as well, would be great. Just not only your children, maybe your siblings as well, or your cousins and the people around you. Yeah,
just the importance of education and
yes.
And how, you know, the more you know, the better chance you've got, essentially. I really appreciate you coming down and sharing that. like I said, we'll share all the links as well. And I know that via your website, there's videos that people can watch.
As well, yes.
Yeah, there's videos on your website. Obviously, we've watched some of them here. So the more information people can get, it's gonna just help them, realize how big of an issue this is. And I think when things are conscious in people's mind, obviously, oftentimes things can be out of sight, out of mind. People can watch this and then go back to their everyday life, but
Really?
Somewhere around the world, there's somebody who this is their reality and they can't go back to their everyday life. And I think that if spreading awareness and if educating ourselves is what we can do, then I think everybody should do that. And again, thank you so much for coming in. And
Thank you.
I'm just excited to see like how you progress with it and the many lives that you're going to go on to influence. And I know you said that your uncle's been your angel, and I think that you're passing that on to these girls, and they've got somebody now that they can be lucky that you're doing this. So thank you.
Thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to spread awareness towards this crime, because it's not easy for anyone to actually focus on a thing like child marriage, because they're not educated enough about the importance of telling people the reality of this crime. But for you to give me a chance to speak up more and tell your audience about this crime actually helped me to spread awareness itself. Them listening to this video or this podcast will actually help them to get more information out of it and more knowledge.
Well, we're more than happy to do that, and we would be happy to do it anytime.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for coming in.
Thank you so much.
Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you.